Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the SIFAS Ending Journal. And today we're going to discuss about the scouting system or Gacha of this game. I'm not even recording in game right now, I'm just recording the audio because this is mainly just a discussion. So as you know, this was a Gacha game, of course, so it uses the currency of the star gems. In Sif it used to be love gems, so I didn't really like that they use the very average star that most Gacha games default to in this one, but meh, oh well. So you get the star gems from, clearing songs from the first time, you get them from daily bonuses, from missions, stuff like that, and you gather them up. And then there are the scouting banners. So the most default way that you did them is that you could scout one card for 50 gems, and you weren't guaranteed anything, it could be anything. And you could do a scout 10 for 500, so 10 at once, and you would usually be guaranteed an SR or above. There were 3 varieties of cards, so R is the ones that you get the most, SR, and then UR. The regular rate was 15% for an SR, I think 5% for an UR, and the rest of it 80%, I guess. For it to be an R in each individual pool, but as I said, if you did a 10 pool, you were at the very least guaranteed one of them to be an SR plus. It could be an SR, it could be an UR. If it was only an SR and you got 9 Rs, then that would be a min roll, that's what we call them, because you got the minimum possible roll. Anyway, so that's how it worked. Additionally, there is a pity system, which, for example, Sif lagged. Sif didn't have any sort of pity system, only on soft banners eventually that had limited amounts of cards on their pool. So the pity system in SIFAS is that when you do a scout, either a single one or a 10, you get these things called shiny quartz. They're like gemstones, and they usually have them in different colors. That was mainly so they could have different banners at the same time, and you could differentiate which one corresponded to which. So you got pretty much per scouting or per 50 gems, 1 shiny quartz. And the way that it worked is that whichever were the featured cards, because most banner had a set of featured cards, usually it was some of the URs or SRs, the newest ones that were released, or depending on the banner, if it was like a banner featuring stuff that had previously been released. So those cards would be featured in there. And if you wanted to purchase them or exchange for them, for an SR you needed 80 shiny quartz, which pretty much equates to 4,000 gems spent, and for an UR it was 250 shiny quartz, which corresponds to 12.5 thousand gems, 12,500. So the community kind of referred to this process as sparking. I believe the term originates from a different game, I don't know which, but it just stuck. So when you say I had to spark for a card, it means that you had to spend 12.5 thousand gems and buy it from the exchange, because you didn't actually get it on the gacha. And I had to do this with FES i3. I even have a video on this channel. It was quite unfortunate in there, but I had like exactly the amount to spark, and I ended up having to, I am pretty sure that I finished that video or that scouting with 90 gems. It was the poorest that I had been in ages in the game, but that's how it works. I should also mention, I guess, there was an option if you had paid gems, so the ones that you would purchase with real money, they would allow you to do a single scout a day for 10 paid gems instead of 50. So what a lot of people did, I myself did it a little bit sometimes, is that at times they would make sales, gem sales. So like you could buy 50 gems for, I think it was like $1 or something like that. Was it $1? I don't remember. I mean, in my currency it was less. It was 2,000 Colombian pesos, which is not that much, but well, when you do that over and over, it eventually adds up. I got a bit ashamed of the final amount that I ended up spending on the game, and that's why I stopped as well. But I would sometimes pick that one up and okay, I have 5 tries to get a good card. And I will admit I did get Festueli with that. I got Festu Hanamaru with those types of gems. So at the very least it helped me, but well, it's a way that they get you and to pay them more, but that's just a way that it was. However, you do not get shiny quartz if you do that. So that's basically it. So as an extension, if you let the shiny quartz expire, basically the shiny quartz, the exchange for cards, is going to be available for the duration of the banner plus 1 additional day. And if you don't use your shiny quartz in that time, they expire and they become shiny pieces, which are like a more neutral resource. And you could exchange for different things with this. It was mainly for like memes of members, or maybe some materials, but I think memes was the most worthwhile thing to exchange them for, because they were usually the harder resource to get. But that's how it usually worked. So how the schedule of the gacha worked is that, let's go back to the very beginning of the game. Sorry. Usually you would have, let's say, beginning of the month. So we had some banners which were called the fest banners, the fest or festival cards. These were stronger cards. In fact, they are the strongest cards in the game. Of course, they evolve with power creep, so actually a regular card that released within the final months of the game was way more powerful than the fest cards that debuted in the game. But they were usually stronger than regular cards. They would usually pop up at the beginning of a month, and they would be there for about a week. Then when that banner ended, I'm talking about the beginning of the game, we would have like I don't know how they were called. I think they were like spotlight banners or like something new, and it would be like a regular member. And I actually skipped something. So okay, we had fest, and then we had the first event of the month. We always had 2 events in a month, so there would be some scoutings in there. Then at the end of the month, usually the fest box ended, and we had the spotlight one. Also, the event what ended, and this spotlight one would be regular cards. Honestly, there was nothing too crazy about them, and that would stay up for the rest of the month, like the rest of the month. Then we would have the second event. Usually they would be at the same time that the spotlight one, so the second event also had the scouting box. And then we would reach again the end of the month, and we would get a new fest rotation. The thing is, these spotlight banners, you know, they were regular cards. They weren't crazy. They were just being released in the middle of stuff. They did eventually come to a stop, and they were replaced by party cards. So party were cards that were also limited, similar to fest. But the thing is that party cards were out of the box at LB0 really strong. They had almost their entire power already at limit break 0, and they would just get a little bit stronger if you got them to max LB. But that was their thing. Also, they could go up until level 7 of passive skills, which had better values than any of the other cards. So party cards ended up replacing the regular spotlight banners. So now you had limited banners every 2 weeks. And I guess that was kind of cool, because those spotlights weren't really anything. And that just left the regular event cards to be the regular cards. Now, event cards would mainly be deemed about whatever the event was. So if it was something about a pool or a beach, so you would get arts of the girls that were like beach themed, and usually their idolized versions. Maybe they could be like swimsuits or something like that. Well, it depended. The fest cards, the first rotation, which is like until they release the first 27 girls, they were like themed around dates. So like you were on a date with the girls. But then I think when they finished that first rotation and they began the Fest 2 rotation, I don't think they actually had themes anymore, so they just went with whatever. I think party cards at the beginning, they were also supposed to like be themes of parties. Like straight up the first party card, which was Party Eye, it's her with a party popper. And I think the next one, which was Daya, it's also like themed of party. But I think at some point early on they said, you know, whatever, we won't actually do like party themes all the time, and they just ended that. Okay, let's see what else can we do. There's a bit of a funny story that I say, well, not funny. So at the beginning of the game, the events, I guess I didn't say this in the events videos, but I guess I'll mention it here since it's part of it. The events of the game were mainly 5 girls that would participate on them. 2 Aquars, well, 2 Mews, 2 Aquars, and a single Nijigasaki girl. Because for whatever reason they took several months to give Nijigasaki girls URs besides FESs. I don't know why they did that, they didn't give them regular URs for several months. So the events were like that. And so that would mean that the UR would be either a Muse or an Aquars one. DSR would always be a Nijigasaki one, but whether it was in the gacha or in the event, it was different. But because there were only 2 URs, it was the one in the ladder, sorry. Yeah, because there were only 5 girls, so it was 1 UR in the ladder, 2 SRs, that's already 3 girls, and then in the spotlight banner or in the gacha banner you had 1 SR and another UR, right? So it was just those 5 cards. But then at some point, I guess when they started to finally give Nijigasaki girls cards in the UR rarity, they did that they were 2 URs in the gacha. But I don't remember if it was at the very beginning, but at one point they did something which was they had 2 different boxes during the event. And they split the URs in each of the boxes. So I mean, I don't know if this was really good or bad, because say, something that happened to me a lot is that usually there will be 2 URs featured, like newly released, in a banner. And I would always, if I was going for one of them, I would end up getting the other. I would get screwed like that. It happened with Fest I think it happened with Fest Kanan, which I will talk about in another story later, because I got the Kazumi. With Fest I was Fest Ellie and I got that one. I don't remember which other ones. Like, I don't remember what released alongside Fest I3. Actually, I think it was Fest Nico, and I did get her. God damn it. It's like that happened to me a lot. So, in that case, when they split the URs and you could only get 1 UR in one box and the other UR in the other box, if you managed to roll the feature card, then it would be the one that you were looking for. But at the same time, you don't have the chance of actually getting both of them if you wanted to, like during an event. It depended on the event if it was like marathon one. But they did that for a little while, and I think eventually they just said, yeah, let's not do this, and then they unified the boxes, so event boxes had both URs in the same box. But that was a thing that happened with the gacha for the events. Another story regarding the gacha is that when the first anniversary of the game came, which happened first on the Japanese version, it was a really good deal because they made a box with every single fest card up until that point in the featured spot, which meant that you could spark for anything. So if you had missed any fest card up until the first year of the game and you had enough for a sparking, then you could do it. And you could exchange for the one that you were missing, or you wanted to blah blah blah, whatever. But the thing is, just like 2 or 3 weeks after the anniversary, they released Fest Canon 1, which was such an incredible power creep from what the current game and cards were at that point. And like, even I can say with full certainty, in my opinion, that Fest Canon, even now in the end of the game, it's still a pretty competent card, even though she released 12 months? Yeah, like 13 months after the game initially released. And there's a lot of stuff from that era that's just completely worthless at this point, but Fest Canon, nah, she was really strong, and I do believe she still is up for the task. But the thing is, they released such an overpowered card after everyone had already probably spent all their resources, pretty much getting people to guilt trip into, oh, you know, this card is so strong. Most definitely you should put money in the game to get it, and probably a lot of people ended up doing that. I do believe that Caleb eventually admitted that they had been power creeping the game purposely so that they could get more money, but it didn't even get them what they wanted anyways, because this game mainly generated losses or something. I don't know the stats, but that's pretty much it. I think I mentioned that. So okay, like types of banners, you had the regular ones. Sometimes you had step up banners, which is generally banners where you pay less gems and then the prices start increasing. Like for example, the birthday boxes are like that, or well, regularly some of the step up scoutings. For example, I see one right now in game, which is like the first step, it costs 100 gems and you get 2, which is actually exactly the same as if you did 2 singles. Then the step 2 is you get 4 for 200, but you get a bonus for wishes. Third step you get 6, but you get 5 times more likely to get a fest or party you are. So stuff like that. Well, not all of them were exactly like this. Some of them were actually a bit more worth it. Like you spent less gems and got more scouting, but the step ups usually led to something better, or sometimes a guarantee in the final step, something like that. It worked like that. There were also retry banners or reroll, where usually it's like you do a scout and sometimes they would have guarantees of yours and your pools. It depended on the box, and if you didn't like your results, then they allowed you to re-roll it and get something else, and you could accept at any point of the steps. But if you reached the final reroll, then you had to just live with what you got. So it was kind of like a gamble, but depending on the banner and the card's feature and what you were looking for at the point, they could be worth it. They tended to do a lot of this like in New Year's or something like that. I did them a lot, but there were some points where I was just looking for specific cards, and honestly doing that was mainly just me wasting my gems rather than saving for a potential spark later on. But yeah, those were also types of boxes that they were. Sometimes they would have like past spotlights, like a specific attribute or some year or some school, where you could get regular cards that you may have missed before. But I think only whales were for this, because I mean they were kind of expensive. You were almost always better off going for a limited banner, be it a fest or a party, because that's where you could get the good stuff. Oh, and I guess I haven't mentioned it up until that point, but fest boxes could only contain fest cards and party boxes could only contain party cards, so they weren't both in the same pool. So if you were looking for some specific party cards or even just a single card, you were better off scouting on the party banner, because you would not find it on the fest. Only in select banners where they would actually mix them, that would happen, but normally that wasn't the case. Like in the new release rotation of fests or parties, you would only find the past fests or parties respectively, but that's how it worked. And the general cards, the thing that weren't fests or parties, everything that wasn't limited, it would usually be in the pool of everything. But if you were looking for something specific, then it would be kind of hard to pull in like the same banner. Like for instance, the final card that I was missing for I was an elegant attribute one, which I called Christmas, but I actually got it and she was never Christmas. I don't know why I thought she was Christmas. So she was elegant attribute, and there was a spotlight banner that was only elegant, cool and pure. And I checked the details of the banners. That's something important. You should always look at the details, see if the card that you were looking was actually there, because sometimes there would be some banners, especially for the limited ones, where they would make a cut and it's only up on the ones that released this date. So say you were looking for something that released in June, but the box was cut at something that released up until April. So if you didn't check the description of the box to see which were actually in the possible pool, and you may have scouted and wasted your gems, not even having a chance of getting what you needed. So that was important. But like for example, I managed to get that I because she was on this banner. But if I had scouted in, say, a limited banner, not only would I have all of the limited ones in the pool as well, but every other attribute. So it depends on that. Like I did it like this because it was the last card that I was missing and the game is ending. Normally I wouldn't have done it, but yeah, I did it because I needed her and I finally got it. And if I hadn't gotten lucky and gotten her on my pools, I did get her at like, I already forgot, like the 14th pool. I would have sparked for her. That was like the worst case scenario, but yeah, that was pretty much it. It's been almost 20 minutes, but I think I did say everything I wanted about the gacha. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, sometimes they were like, they gave you like UR tickets, and depending, sometimes there were cuts where they would update those lineups. So if you were hoping for, say, an event happened and you didn't get a new card, but then you got a new UR ticket because of some promotion or login bonus, you had to look at when they would actually add that card that you wanted to the rotation to see if you had a chance of getting it. If not, that you could do it. I mean, there were sometimes different tickets that they never updated the rotation. For example, I think there's like 2nd anniversary or even 3rd anniversary tickets, and they announced that they would never upgrade the pool of cards that you could get out of those. So even if someone has been stacking up those tickets, saving them up until today, they probably still only have the pool of cards that were released up until that point, on the 2nd anniversary, because they said that they wouldn't update those pools of cards. But yeah, and usually for general rotation and like the free, well, not free, but the green tickets that you could get, those would usually get updated in the first days of the month. There usually would be an announcement for that. Let's see, there's another story. So there was a banner that costed 500 paid gems that was available from the release of the game, and I think it guaranteed you an UR from release, so one of the 18 initial Aquars or Muse cards. And I do believe they never updated the pool on that banner, but the thing is that banner would never go away from your scouting screen. It would always remain there. If you never spent any money, then you probably still have it. Well, actually maybe not, because it may have gone to free gems, because everything that used paid gems here in the final months of the game, they removed all the paid stuff because you can't even buy anymore. So maybe people could do it, but like the thing is, that banner was always there and it costed 500 paid gems, and I was a little bit annoyed that that banner was there, so I ended up buying those sale gems over several months until I could finally scout on that banner. And I actually did get Initial Cannon out of that one, which is actually a good card because she was a little bit strong for initial card standards, but also she has Appeal plus All, which is a really useful skill, and literally she was a go-to for any of my teams, even if she wasn't limit broken. She was useful. But that's that story with a scouting banner. And I think I mentioned that like the pity system, the shiny quartz or shiny pieces if they expire. I think that's everything. So yeah, it's been almost 23 minutes, but I think I said everything that I wanted. I had been like thinking of what to say on this video for some time, and I finally sat down and recorded it. So that's how the gacha system worked in SIFAS. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope so. To hear my tale. I'm gonna leave on screen the playlist for the rest of the features of the game. I still have a couple more to go after this, though I think it's getting a bit easier. I have tackled most of the heavy hitting topics. But yeah, so you can check the playlist if you want to check something else. And for now, the video is over.